Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast for a Thursday show as we're getting towards the end of May here. Talking cost efficiency for the Avs and around the NHL today, along with our conversations of the salary cap the last couple of days. First off, the news, of course, Florida Panthers going back to the Stanley Cup final. Neat. They're who I picked to come out of the East, so I don't think this one is all that surprising for most people, but there it is. They're in the final. Cool. All right.
I love it.
Moving on.
I love it.
You do?
I love it. Well, we talked about it. They're well run. They're well built. They did what they had to do, and Bill Zito's done an unbelievable job there. Unbelievable job. And the players have delivered. So, kudos to them.
Yep. No argument.
But also, you love your guy Sly.
True.
No, but you know what? It's funny you're saying that. You know, former Avalanche, right? Sly Lefebvre. Last 3 years, look at their decor. It's been changed every year. You know what I mean? And they've done an unbelievable job, whether it was with Gouda cheese or, you know what I mean, guys like that. And guys performed. And they brought Rudo. We were talking about it in AJ in playoffs, right? About the ceiling and, you know, players playing up to their ceilings and not the floor. Well, they certainly maximize everybody like Nate Schmidt and, you know, guys like that, or Gouda cheese the last couple of years. Or, you know, it's kind of crazy. And then they get their payday and go somewhere else. But, you know, obviously they're Sly. We always talk about Prater here, Nolan Pratt with the Avalanche. That's done an awesome job, you know, and consistency. Well, Sly's very much the same demeanor as Prater. You know what I mean? It's you kind of want to listen when they speak. They're softer. They're gentle gentlemen. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's working over there, and it's certainly worked for the Avs. Obviously, the last 10 years on D there. So kudos to those.
They are building that track record though, because Gustav Forsling has become one of the like better defensemen in the NHL, and that was a guy that cleared waivers at one point. You know, like Brandon Montour had an unbelievable couple of years before Seattle stepped on that landmine. And then you look, OEL had the big revival down there. Nate Schmidt's having that revival. It's really been, you mentioned Radko Gudas, like there have been some guys that have had some really solid bounce back performances when it looked like their career. I mean, Dmitry Kulikov was a guy that was just bouncing around as a 7. And, you know, like he was like that guy was like, he had assumed like the Nate Thompson trade deadline, like he's going to go for a 4th to a contender every year and maybe get into the lineup kind of guy, and rock solid, like just a solid guy back there. So they've built that pipeline. They've done a really good job of finding guys who will fit and then maximizing their skill sets. And you look at it, and that's what we're going to be talking a lot about today, cost efficiency. That's why they're in another cup final, is because their cost efficiency, especially defensively, has been elite. I mean, it's one reason why you can imagine Aaron Ekblad walking into free agency does not get the contract that he thinks he's going to get from the Panthers.
Yep. I mean, there's injury issues there too, but it's a fully interconnected thing. Too, right? Yeah, no kidding. But for Florida, yes, their actual defense is great, but it's also connected. Obviously, you have a guy like Sasha Barkov. Okay, great, awesome. But they're maximizing what they get out of a guy like an Anton Lundell. You look all the way down their lineup, they're so well connected as a unit defensively and offensively. But when you put the right pieces together for the right price, that's what we're going to get into today. That's how you build championship team, certainly.
And even just add that guy Boquist, right?
Yeah.
Boquist has been, you know, he's been slotted in. He didn't dress yesterday, right? No, it wasn't dressed. You know, so all of a sudden he was slotted in for a couple games. Put him on the line. The guy he was productive. This is a guy that was in Boston, didn't do much. I think he went 40 games without a goal this year. So it's not like, you know what I mean? But they know that they have guys that want to compete in the playoffs, and they know where to slide them in and maximize whatever they can get. AJ Greer, guys like that. So not my favorite.
Well, and you look at a guy. I mean, Mackie Samoskevich was a high pick, and he's a guy that is going to be a part of their future. Had a solid season for them out of the lineup come postseason. Like their depth, they've done such an excellent job. I will say AJ Greer having success there feels like a little bit of indication for me as a longtime AJ Greer believer who didn't understand why the Avs were so out on him. Although I know that there were some like locker room question marks and some like dumb young guy stuff back in the day that
sometimes it takes
has to have gotten fixed. Yeah, like the player I don't think was ever really the problem there.
I mean, I think it's fair to say the Avs didn't have 8 years to wait around for him either.
It's fair. But there are, like, in 20 years when I retire and I write a book about what it was like to cover the Avs, I've got AJ Greer stories that I can tell about, like, just a young guy just being a young guy, like nothing like evil or bad.
I've heard one or two that won't get repeated, yeah.
Yeah, like just like dumb stuff,
Yeah.
And like the young guy stuff is the stuff where you're just like, yeah, but you see the Avalanche from back then and the Avalanche of today would probably value him differently.
For sure.
And the way that the Panthers valued him, it wasn't like he's just been rocking in the NHL for this entire time since he left. He wasn't. It took him time. It's only been the last couple of years. And it's not, I mean, come on. He had 17 points this year.
Yeah.
Like this isn't like a guy that is like a set and forget lineup piece. This is just like
it's a credit to him carving out a role in the NHL at all. Like,
and like we talked yesterday about, they've gone out and they've gotten a bunch of psychos. They got a bunch of crazy guys. AJ Greer fits that.
He's a crazy
he's
dad.
A perfect fit for that. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about with Florida doing a great job finding guys that are just Panthers, that are just who they want to be as a team, top to bottom, and Greer does a great job of being that one of those guys.
So let's transition to the Avs and talk about cost efficiency within this lineup. And I want to preface this by saying cost efficiency doesn't necessarily mean cheap. It just means you're getting more value than what you're paying for the guy, right? It means per dollar that you give up, you're getting more value than you should be out of the player based on the contract that you're giving them. I think look no further than Jonathan Drouin over the last couple of years, if you want an example of great cost efficiency in a player.
Yeah.
Obviously, Drouin had injury issues this year, but even then was probably still a high-level cost-efficient player when you're looking at he was getting paid, what, $2.5 billion, and he had 37 points in 43 games or something like that this year. Super duper efficient.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he was. I think I told you this. I was looking at free agents one day, and I was like, "Hey, did you know he's the only guy on the top like 60 scoring free agents this year, unrestricted free agents that did not hit 50 games played? Cost efficiency." So, and Rudo, I think it's a really good point that you start there, because it should be stated almost all of the elite players in the NHL are cost efficient.
Yes.
With the salary cap being what it is,
they're worth every penny.
Nathan McKinnon at $12.6 million is underpaid.
Yep.
He's underpaid. Cale Makar at $9 million is way underpaid. That's why you're going to see him get a significant raise next summer. Like, there are very few like star caliber players that are cost inefficient because their value is just that high. It's that good.
Jonathan Huberdeau. It's okay. Moving on.
Right. Like there are a couple, but even Huberdeau, which was the worst contract in the league 18 months ago, you're looking
it's
at
better
it now,
than it was. Yeah, it's much better now.
Now he's just a plain old overpaid guy. No longer like, oh my God, he's an anchor around an organization's neck. Like he's just an overpaid dude now. And that's the crazy part about the NHL, the hard cap system that we have in place here. Almost all of the star players are worth the money that they're getting paid because their value is that high.
Yep, absolutely true. There's a couple of different ways we can go about this with the Avs. Should we start with the Avs sign players, or should we start with potential options for them to sign internally?
I think we should just start with the signed guys.
Okay, we can start there.
It's not a long list. As long as we get through the understanding that McKinnon, Makar, and Taves are all cost efficient, it's fine.
Their key guys are worth the money. There is no doubt.
Yeah, exactly. I think when Tiff messaged me and asked this question, there were two guys that immediately came to mind, and it's Marty Necas and Artturi Lehkonen. Artturi Lehkonen is making $4.5 million.
That's a real good contract. Yeah.
Just for comparison's sake, that's the same money that Mason Marchment is making. And Mason Marchment's a good player. He's a solid, middle six depth-ish guy. Artturi Lehkonen is like the secret sauce to Colorado's top line. So, and it's coming off a 27-goal season in just 69 games.
Right. Forget all of the other intangible stuff, all of the hard work ethic. He even throw his assists out. $4.5 million for a 27-goal scorer is not terrible value. Now, granted, Lecky is very unlikely to score at that rate, probably ever again. But for a guy who has become, we'll see going forward with the return of Gabe Landeskog, but Lehkonen very much filled that fixer role for the Colorado Avalanche over the last couple of years with Gabe Landeskog out of the lineup. It's a player like that, it's almost hard to put an accurate evaluation on as far as a dollar value is concerned because they do so many good things for you.
Yeah, he plays PK. He's the fixer, or you guys call it the adult on most lines that he's on, right? And it's there's a price for that, you know what I mean? And sometimes people say oh, it's so much, but when you're putting 27 butts with that, holy cow, that's pretty good. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think the biggest problem for Lehkonen is just his availability is consistently a problem during the regular season, not in the postseason, but in the regular season. Since he started making $4.5 million, he's 3 years into a 5-year deal. He's played 64, 45, and 69 games. He's been productive. He's been part of Colorado's top six, and by top six, I really mean top line. But he's been super cost efficient for the Avalanche, considering all the elements of his game that he brings. And this is also the same exact conversation that somebody is going to have about Sam Bennett when he signs in free agency. It's not just about the points. It's about all the other things that he brings to the table. Good playoff player, all those things. And the difference is that Artturi Lehkonen making $4.5 million is a slam dunk. Sam Bennett at $10 million is going to be there's going to be sticker shock to that. Different levels there.
You better be right at that price.
And you said it perfectly, because I'll give you an example like I always do of the older Avalanche 1.0, but I'm not comparing the two players. I'm saying it's hard to put a value. And Mike Keane went to free agency with a huge contract to the Rangers. And it was the same thing. How can you pay a 6-goal scorer that much money at the time? And it was, but then you lose it, and you don't realize you lose it until they're gone. And then you're like, oh God, we are missing that element that you can't really put a value on. You know what I mean? A money sign on it. It was the leadership. It's the, a lot like Lecky, his leadership's on the ice. Keener was in the room, and, and the PK, and then the dirty stuff, you know what I mean? So you don't realize until they're gone. And we all know this is a guy we missed at the start of the year. In those 10 games or 12 games he was gone. He came back, and Avs played better, but he was a big factor on why the Avs played better. So Lehkonen for me is, I'll never use the word underpaid. You know what I mean? It's overpaid, sorry, ever. I don't care what the number is. You know what I mean?
He's a player's player.
Oh, man. God. As a coach, it's a dream.
Yep. I do want to get into some of their cost-efficient guys beyond just Lecky, but we do have to pay a few bills first, so let's make sure we're jumping in and taking care of our business. Make sure we're not underpaid, all right? Go get with Game Time today. Jump in, get with them, get your tickets through Game Time. Join over 15 million people that get their tickets with the Game Time app. And when you sign up with code DNVR, you get $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. Of course, terms apply there. Whatever the sport you're looking to get into, Game Time has you covered with their Game Time Picks feature. You can go in, you can search for what you want, and Game Time will filter out all the junk. They'll only show you the best tickets for the best prices when you search with the Game Time Picks feature. So go get it, whether it's a Cup final game, whether it's a NBA final game, whether it's going to Coors Field to not watch the sporting going on, whatever it might be, Game Time has you covered. And they also even get you tickets to things like concerts and the theater. So Game Time has it all. Go get the app today. Use that DNVR code and get $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. What time is it? It's game time, boys. Once you've got your tickets, make sure once you get to the arena, or, if you're pre-gaming before and Ubering or whatever it might be, go get yourself an ice-cold Coors Light. Jump in and choose chill with Coors Light today. It's getting to be that time of year. It's been pretty rainy here in Colorado, but, that's all the more reason to relax. Don't worry about what's going on outside and chill at home and enjoy Coors Light while you're sitting around watching conference finals games and watching Dallas lose, or well, I guess Florida already won their conference final, so you're good on that front. But Coors Light will be there all the way with their Blue Mountains on the bottle or the can to let you know it's ice cold. And you can even get it delivered right to your front door without getting up off your couch. Head over to CoorsLight.com/DNVR today. Instacart will hook you up, get it sent to your front door. Pretty easy. Of course, if you don't want to get it delivered for some reason, they're available in every single liquor store, but you know me. I'm not getting up off the couch. So I'm getting my Coors Light through Instacart and CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Of course, when you do drink Coors Light, please drink responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. I think Lecky's pretty clearly great value. The rest of the lineup, and I know who AJ's going to say next, but I'm curious, I guess, where you guys think the Avs are being cost efficient in their lineup. Let's just ask it broadly.
Go.
It's not great. It's not great right now. We had a conversation yesterday about having to trade Josh Manson and Ross Colton, potentially Sam Girard, because they're cost inefficient. I actually don't think Girard is that cost inefficient. It's more, there are so many other factors involved in that. But sure. Manson, I think Manson for sure these days, given the injury problems, cost inefficient. Blackwood, I think, is probably cost inefficient relative to the goaltender market. I think he's appropriately paid, right? And when we're talking about cost efficiency, Rudo, as you mentioned earlier, we're talking about guys who outperform their contracts. Nichushkin.
There's so many question marks around that at this point.
I feel fine with Nichushkin at 6, but I don't feel like it's a major steal.
I will say, when you look at things like Blackwood, that's a contract that in 3 years will probably be pretty cost efficient once the cap goes up and you get into the latter half of that contract. But today, maybe a little bit of a different story.
If he has another season, if he has a full season like what he just put together in Colorado, you feel fine about it. Cost efficiency, sure. You're solid. If he's a top 15 goaltender on that contract, you're home. But this is, the obvious one here is Marty Necas, right?
Yep.
There are questions about him as a playoff guy. He wasn't amazing in that series against Dallas, but
he also wasn't
really
horrible.
Was outside of McKinnon, I guess.
Logan O'Connor.
Yeah, exactly. Like your fourth line. Woo, that rocked.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Marty Necas just had an awesome season. And this,
yep.
even if you just want to isolate it to only his Colorado stats, his 28 points in 30 games, he's making $6 million. He's well outperforming that number. If he were to put that up over the course of an entire season, you're talking about like a 70-point player. That's cost efficiency.
Yep.
If you could get to like 85, you're feeling amazing about it. And that's one reason why his camp is going to ask for $10 million this summer, and the Avalanche should be wary of that deal.
We'd like to give you
but
more like 8.
Exactly. If they could give him like an $8 million deal over 6 years, I think everybody would be okay with that. Except for the guy potentially giving up millions of dollars in Marty Necas. I would be okay with it, and I'm the one that counts. So Necas is really like the guy that I think we're talking about as he last season, and the expectation for him next season is greatly outperforming that $6 million number.
Yep.
Did you touch on Wedgwood? I know you said Blackwood, but what about Wedgwood?
I didn't,
I like
just
it.
because I don't have a problem with it, but kind of like with Blackwood, I think it's fair. You're talking about a backup goaltender, which is one of the cheapest spots on a roster to fill, and like the Avs had been doing really well, with like $1 million. At 1.5, he's one of the more like expensive, like true backups, not platoon guys where you're splitting your time, right? Like you're talking about our expectations for Wedgwood next year should be like 30 games, right? Like somewhere in the neighborhood of 30. Yep. For $1.5 million for a guy that's going to play 30 games, not even half of your season, even if he's really, really good, it's still it's fine. Like it's fine relative to that position league wide. It's acceptable. If he plays as well as he did for the Avs, I'm with you, E. It's a steal.
I think it makes me sleep. Remember, you said it's about you, but it's about me now. Like, it makes me sleep.
Your turn.
Like the way Blackwood. It's my turn. I like the way Blackwood is surrounded that way. I do believe the big man needs a guy like that. And you do. And I've talked to so many goalies this year, like Brian Boucher, and he was telling me about it's such a different mindset when you feel that there's no one behind you. People would think it's easier. It's actually harder. You know what I mean? Because it's you don't have that cushion. You know what I mean? Because if you do bad, then you guys are screwed. So it's very important to have a guy like Wedgwood because he can push you. You know what I mean? Because you want to keep your net. You want to be the number one guy, and he is. But also, if something happens, he's there to. And if you need a little break, a little reset of a game or two, then you don't feel bad. The guy's going in, Wedgwood. He's a very capable guy. This is a guy that can win 20 games next year in my book, so. Who knows?
I'll tell you who would make sleep better is Jared Bednar. That's maybe the biggest selling point. Like,
exactly.
We've seen over the last handful of years with Bednar, right? There have been some backup goalies that he just has not trusted. And some of that is out of necessity because of injury. But this is a guy who has gone through playing the Hunter Miskas in games. We saw him for years and years and years. If he felt like he really needed a win, he would just run his starter on both ends of the back-to-back. And since Wedgwood has come in, you can tell there's more confidence there. You can tell Bednar is comfortable in a situation where he feels like he needs a win. He can still play his backup in Wedgwood.
And what did we talk about with Lehkonen and Keane? And, there are things you can't measure. Wedgwood has that. He's got that presence. He's got that.
Yeah.
That's very important. He's not just there and he shuts his mouth and sits on the bench and puts a towel around his neck and looks up, at the Jumbotron. He's involved in the game. He's involved in the locker room. He's involved with call-ups. He's involved with superstars. He's involved with the coaches. Very important. There's a very, very important part of the Avalanche, and I do believe he did. And that's why he's such a wanted, like you said, backup around the league.
I'm thrilled that you brought that point up because he also is a different personality in that locker room. Like he's involved in everything, and he's a present backup, and not a passive one. But he brings levity to a room that can get overly serious at times, and we have seen struggle with being way too uptight over the years. And I think having a guy like Wedgie is really it's a really good personality balance for like. This guy remembers that this is fun. He's playing a game, he means business and you take it seriously, but you need levity. You can't have too much seriousness in a room. Otherwise, it creates tension and anxiety, and eventually it leads to an emotional breakdown. You don't want that. That's all bad.
It's a situation that hopefully the Avs should be more equipped to solve this year with Wedgwood, as you mentioned. with Gabe Landeskog seeming like he's good to go, who's always been a little bit more of that emotional reset for this organization as the captain.
Yeah.
They should be in a better situation with that. But I did want to jump through to some of the guys the Avs are likely to lose this offseason, because this is what's hard about finding cost-efficient players. When you find a cost-efficient player and they go and play really well and are super cost-efficient, when that contract is up, someone's going to pay them in free agency. And pretty likely, I would say, to happen with Jonathan Drouin, unless he really decides he wants to take another cheap deal to stay. You look at someone like a Kivi Ranta, who unbelievably cost-efficient per goal for the Avs this year. And everyone's sitting here knowing if you sign that guy for $2 million, you're making a mistake. Mm-hmm. So it's hard.
I'm with you. The Cat, as much as I grew to like him, I actually love him. I nicknamed him the Cat. But yeah, you're signing him to that for what it's worth for his goals total. You're making a mistake. You know what I mean? Like, now, he's a good fit here. He has a trust. I call that a trust like relationship with the coaching staff, right? They can trust him. They grew to trust him. You got to give him credit. He came in with no contract and awesome. You know what I mean? Like, made his way and earned a contract, and I had to go to the American League, come back, and then we always say it, make decisions. Kivi Ranta made decisions. You know what I mean? They got rid of guys. They kept them. They gave him a contract, and they played him over other guys. Miles Wood. There you go. Exactly. It's an example, right? So there's a trust factor there. I think as a player, now if I'm his agent, this is where I think Alan Walsh last year was fantastic with Jonathan Drouin. Fantastic, because it was a fit contract that he signed. It was about feeling good and being in the right place. And Kivi Ranta's a little different situation. But yeah, I'd be careful if you're a team to sign that to a certain amount, and you're going to regret it. And then the Avalanche would as well. But as a player, you have a good situation here. Sometimes you might have more longevity in this league by sticking around here. Even if you take less money, you're going to have more money at the end of your of your career, sorry.
For the record, Kivi Ranta is an interesting one because the AFP model projection system has Kivi Ranta slotted for a 2-year deal at $1 million.
I do that.
I would
for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I would do that.
Like, that's an easy yes for me. If that ends up being his market, I agree with you. He should stay. The Avalanche should keep him. That's an easy 100%. Yes. But
100%.
If he gets the kind of deal that we all think is possible, just given this market, his value is going to go up because more of these guys are going to re-sign before they get to actual free agency. All of those things happen, and he ends up being a 2.5. He wants to get a Logan O'Connor, Miles Wood, $2.5 million type of deal for a longer term. That can't be waters that they swim in.
Meow.
I think 1.5 would probably be where I would extend myself for Kivi Ranta, and even then I'm probably a little uncomfortable, which tells you that that's probably fair to Kivi.
That range is good. That range is good.
Where I struggle with the 1.5 is that the Avs already have some bottom 6 guys that they're committed to. Obviously, a guy like LOC that you love, yeah, sure, maybe they're looking to get out of Miles Wood's deal, but then you still have Jack Drury at 1.7 next year. It's really hard to be cost efficient when you start handing out bigger contracts to your bottom 6. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah, you have to be careful, and that's what made the Parker Kelly deal last year so good, is because they got $825,000.
Yep.
They got the second year on that deal. His value has doubled.
Yep.
Just point production is pretty much the same. The role was a little bit different this year because they tried to pretend he was a center for so long. But once they stopped, he flourished, being the guy that they really brought him in to be, and his value just doubled overnight, just like that. And you look at you give 2 more years of the cap going up before he hits free agency this year and next. You're looking at Parker Kelly's probably going to be, if he has exactly the same year, he could be a guy that is asking for $1.5 million next year.
Yep.
So cost efficient.
You gotta find those guys. The Avs have done a pretty good job of finding guys like that too over the course of the last handful of years. But
somebody asked about Jimmy. Oh, sorry, you got to. Yeah, I want to talk to him after the break there.
After the break, you can talk about Jimmy. Let's hit it. Well, if you want to double your value overnight, hit a bet on Bet365. Go jump in with Bet365 today. When you sign up, make sure you use the DNVR365 code. You put in $10, you bet $5 on anything, win or lose that bet, you get $150 in bonus bets that you can mess around with. It's basically free money that you can play with on Bet365. If you win money, cool. Now you've got money. If you don't win with them, they were bonus bets anyway. So it costs you $10. You had a little bit of fun. Either way, make sure you're jumping in with Bet365. You can jump in. They're now an official partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. So, they're out here with the home team. So jump in. Bet365's app is downloadable right now. You can get those bonus bets. You can also get a bunch of great offers, whether it's their boosted bets or for the NHL. If a team goes up by 3 goals, you get paid out instantly if you picked them to win with Bet365. So use that DNVR code. Get the $150 in bonus bets. Go get with Bet365 today, where it's never ordinary. And of course, you must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER today. And then, having gambling is fun. Doing bets is fun. But you also got to make sure you're looking out for your health and the health of others. Right now, UC Health is going to put on their Healthy Swings event from June 5th to on June 5th, I should say. Excuse me. It's their 7th annual UC Health Healthy Swings Charity Home Run Derby. You have Broncos players like Cortland Sutton, Alex Singleton, and Marvin Mims stepping up to the plate at Coors Field to help raise money. UC Health has donated over $900,000 to local charities over 6 iterations of the Healthy Swings event, supporting Colorado food insecurity, cancer screenings, and veterans' mental health challenges. So, UC Health is out here being part of the community. This year's beneficiary is Freedom Service Dogs. So, go get with UC Health today. Mark it on your calendars, June 5th, the Healthy Swings event. And go, make sure you're taking care of your health and helping out others here in Colorado. All right. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Vesey, are you bringing him back?
Yes. And I want to go back to Kivy just for half a second. I was so stubborn on Kivy at first. I was like, you know what? I couldn't see it. I didn't see it. But it just goes to show you when the player is willing to put in the work, willing to do the right thing, and then the coaching staff is willing to trust you, then you can have a marriage. You know what I mean? And you can have a healthy player in the lineup that costs you nothing. So that was a great find there by the Avalanche. Just wanted to say that. As far as Jimmy V, I'm looking at the Avalanche situation. I'm looking at what's out there with the UFA class. He is a UFA, right? You can find Jimmy Visers around the league. I always say that. Like I was saying about when I got in trouble for saying Kovalenko, you can find Kovalenkos around the league anywhere, which I was kind of right because he's going to be in the KHL probably, and that's okay. That doesn't make you a Bob. I'm saying you just have to be a fit. You have to go somewhere. Look, I just talked about Kivy, same thing. Well, Jimmy, for me, if I'm looking around and that would be my exercise with the pro scouts and say, well, name me like 2 guys that are better than Jimmy V that we could bring in that could do the same spot. And then I don't know if there's 2 or 3. I don't know. And then I would look into the American League and it's like, I don't see, as we all know, I don't see it. And people are going to say Pishpachov, and sorry, I always mess up his name. But you know what I mean? Not ready for this, guys. Not ready for this. He's good for a call-up. Not ready for this. This is a kid that came in. This is a great find. And even Ivan, we saw it last year, right? Kind of maybe a little too early because of the situation the Avs were in. And you don't want to burn him. I like Ivan, but I'm just saying, guys like that, you got to look. And then Jimmy Vesey, if you have a good, solid person, a solid veteran, a guy that can play on special teams, he can go up and down your lineup. He really didn't play here, so it's hard for people that don't really know him to see it. And yes, he's been in a few places where, he's not a fit, or, he didn't play a lot, or whatever it is. Like I tell you guys all the time, it's hard to produce when you're not on the ice, when you get the bad burger ice, right? But if you need a good veteran guy, a guy that's smart and a guy that fits the Avalanche a little bit of personality and, good person and a solid veteran. And when you don't really have call-ups, I'd talk to him right now. I'd talk to him absolutely right now. Want a league minimum deal and bring him back. Because worst comes to worst, you put him in the minors or whatever it is, right? You're talking about under $1 million. That's where he's going to be at. So,
yeah.
The other value of Jimmy Vesey over a guy like Ivan is that Ivan still benefits a lot from playing in the AHL, growing his game, getting comfortable, all those things, right? There's development there. Jimmy Vesey's not that at that stage of his career anymore, and he's now been a guy who's kind of been in and out of the lineup enough that he's comfortable playing the extra guy. And he's a smart, polished veteran that can step into your lineup and give you pro minutes. And it's not sexy. It's not overwhelming. You're not going to be like, oh my God, this guy. What a find. He's just a solid dude. And that's why he's in demand every offseason. He's in demand. Teams want him. Good teams want him. You don't ever see him playing on any bum teams because he has his pick of good teams that he gets to go and play for because he has a professional approach. He's respected. There's so much there with Vesey, and I worry that he doesn't want to be in Colorado because he's going to want to go back out east. He's been out east his entire career. It's been his whole thing, right? But I am with E. I think this would be not like amazing or anything, but this is a good solid player at the bottom of your forward core that if he gets pressed into action, you can trust him. You're not talking about Nikita Prishchapov or Mikhail Maltsev not getting a puck deep and it costing you a game in the regular season. It's Jimmy Vesey is just he's smart, he's dependable, he's that reliable vet at the bottom of your lineup. It's really all only good things as long as we accept there's a hard cap on the skill there. Like he's not gonna blow you away. He's not gonna give you big production. He's not gonna steal a roster spot from somebody by being incredible. It's just not gonna happen. It's not who he is. You accept the limitations, and it makes it easier to appreciate all the positives that he brings. Not gonna ask for a lot of money. I mean, if they could give him a 2-year deal at $900,000, yes. Done in a heartbeat. That would be done.
And you talked about a roster spot. And too many times, like we from the outside, fans, media, people that cover the team or that follow the team, always talk about, oh, he's taking away a roster spot from a young kid. I get that point. I do. You know what I mean? I really do, because sometimes it's a true statement. But where the Avalanches are at today, that is not a true statement, because the Pishpashov, not ready for that. Ready for a call-up? Absolutely. And I like him. You know that. I liked him. It was great. But you're still young. You're still years away. You still got to work at your craft. You still got to work at watching Artturi Lehkonen play hockey every day. Every day after practice in Loveland, you should watch the game tape of the shifts of Artturi Lehkonen and make yourself like one of those guys. Which is what? Mastering the simple play. And that's what Lecky did. That's why we talked about him for 10 minutes earlier. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say about Jimmy.
I want to jump off this conversation to kind of talk about ELCs a little bit. And look, this is not the show to have development this and they're not giving guys. I don't want to talk about that on this show. It's a valid conversation, but we're not going to do it on this show. We're talking about cost efficiency on this show. And look, ELCs are some of the most cost-efficient contracts in the NHL because you get players on ELCs with extremely high ceilings. You get guys like Macklin Celebrini on an ELC that can give you a point per game for a ridiculously cheap number. The Avs ELCs that they currently have in their organization are not that. Their ELC guys like Ivan aren't going to be any more cost-efficient than a Jimmy Vesey. They're not going to be any more cost-efficient than a Kivi Ranta on an $800K deal. So it's a little bit of a different conversation for the Avs. And their potential high-ceiling ELCs, one is a goalie that doesn't really have room to play on the Avs in this coming season. And the other is a defenseman that we know isn't going to play in North America next year. So
yeah,
they don't really have those high-value ELCs that some other teams do.
It's like Sean Barons.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Like Sean Barons, like coming back from the knee injury, like it really should have been Sean Barons going into next season should have been pushing for like a Sam Malinsky-esque like ascension, but with the knee injury, it kind of pushed it back. But yeah, you're right. Almost all ELCs are positive value because they're just so cheap. But these guys, this group it really is like Ivan. End of list.
Pretty much. So the reality of where the Avalanche are organizationally with their ELCs is not like there's a bunch of amazing value to be had there, even if there are guys you want to have opportunity. The other side of this, if you're looking outside of the organization for cost-efficient players, your options are find deals in free agency, trade for a player that is undervalued for whatever, has a good contract and teams are looking to move away from for some reason, or RFAs. And this is a minor tangent question here for you guys, because I genuinely cannot remember if the Avs have ever offer sheeted anyone. And I know they can't. They genuinely just can't. They don't have the picks right now. But it was just a passing thought of mine of, have they ever offer sheeted anyone? Okay. Didn't think so.
They've been offer sheeted twice.
Yeah.
Ryan and Joe, right?
Yeah. Yep. They've matched both.
That's it. Good decisions,
Ryan,
both.
We were angry.
Do you want to talk about that some?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Every year we have the conversation where we get to the off season and everyone's waiting around for stuff to happen and everyone's like, oh, they should offer sheet this guy. They should offer sheet 100 offer sheets should be this. And there's never Edmonton getting it done twice. The last off season. Yeah, it was last off season. Yeah. That was like the craziest offer sheet year of all time. That 2 happened. It's just not a thing that happens very often in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it a couple of times. You remember the whole Montreal, Carolina, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Sebastian Aho, like
the minute that offer sheet was signed. Well, the first one, the minute that one was signed, everyone was like, "Oh, they're matching that. We're done here."
Yeah, congrats, you did the work for them. Wonderful.
Yeah,
and then the Kotkaniemi one happened, which has gone very poorly, and they should buy him out.
That was a tough penalty last night. That's a tough penalty last night. Yikes!
That's a tough contract. If they don't, they should buy it out right now because before it vests into a much more expensive deal. And I bet you they do. Anyway, yeah, there are no offer sheets really available for the Avalanche, but I think there are some interesting offer sheet opportunities for teams this year because that's where we're talking about surplus value, man. RFAs is where it's at. Yeah, you look at those deals and you're like, whoo, baby, these are some good players hanging out here, not making the big bucks yet, as is how the system is set up to work.
I mean, that's the idea, right? RFAs are cost controlled. If you look at it on a minor scale for the Avs, Sam Malinsky, a guy that they're going to be able to control the cost of a little bit this offseason. But obviously, when you compare potential value there to someone like a Marco Rossi in Minnesota, big gap.
Yeah, I mean, if a team really wanted to try and stick it to the Avs, like offer sheeting Sam Malinsky could be a way to do it. Just give him like a 4x4, and Colorado's going to be like,
Would that be? I'm sorry, I'm taking the picks. If I'm the Avs and someone does that, I am taking the picks.
Yeah, yes.
4x4 is what?
The same. But that sucks. Because the Avs can't reasonably match that. Even if they were like, hey, we think he's this good, they would have to do a lot of extra surgery just to try and fit that in.
For sure.
And then if it doesn't go that way, if he does not become that guy, then,
For the record, sucks. A 4x4 would be a second round pick.
Neat. Colorado would be like, cool, we're going to trade that for a 4th line wing in 2 months.
Yep.
So maybe you do match.
I don't think I'd match.
Anyway, like if you're the Jets You're like, hey, we're gonna, if you're the Jets, you want to try and stick it to somebody. I don't even know if they have the draft pick compensation. I'm just saying, like, if you're a team that wants to try and stick it to the Avs a little bit, make their life a little harder, sure, try and do it to the one RFA that they have. Sure.
You could, if you really hated the Avs. I guess you could.
Yep. The Jets cannot do it to them. We're safe.
No second. All right, we're good. Someone go do it to Dallas instead.
Calgary, however.
Oh boy. Would be the first time. Wouldn't be the first time. Anyway. Yeah. It's. I think there is a lot of value potentially gotten out of RFAs. It's also really, if you're talking about the Avs going out and getting an RFA, it's not just contract value that you have to talk about because they're going to have to trade for one. We've talked about potentially going after a Rossi. If you want to go look at some of the other options out there, there are RFAs that you probably feel like could be good value, but then what is it going to cost to pry them out of wherever they happen to be?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how you get that across the line necessarily. But
I can see Rossi. And again, the rumors are true. He wants 7 times 7. Maybe not one team is willing to give him that, right? You know what I mean? Then you trade for the guy, then you have the problem. Right? No, you're stuck with the guy. You know what I mean? It's like, huh? So you got to be careful. But then, offer sheet, I mean, I don't know. I think Minnie is going to trade him before it gets to that. So that's just my thought.
Yeah.
For example.
Let's just talk about Rossi since this conversation is kind of tap dancing around him as it is, because of the guys that we could talk about, like, look, I would love to see Morgan Geekie or Ryan McLeod, Mason McTavish all enter into this conversation. Those teams don't have a lot of reason to trade those guys right now.
Minnesota is trying to swing for hockey players right now. Yeah.
For some reason, Minnesota is trying to get rid of Marco Rossi, and Marco Rossi is a player, 7x7. I'm going to write a whole piece on this at some point, but the 7x7 that that Rossi is allegedly asking for, back-to-back seasons of 82 games played, okay? And that's in a Minnesota style that asks you to play a little tougher brand of hockey. Can't be too soft. Back-to-back 20-point seasons, jumped from 40 points to 60 points, but was a fourth-line center in the postseason for the Wild this year. They didn't trust him.
Yep.
So, but that's the thing. He would be a legitimate center. He is 23 years old, coming off of a 60-point season and has back-to-back 20-goal seasons, okay? There should obviously be interest here. The pock marks for Marco Rossi, he's 5'9". He's a real 5'9". This isn't like a 5'9", but he's actually 5'7". He's 5'9", which doesn't really help his case. If it was 5'7", I don't think it would matter much. He's real small, all right? But he's not small and frail at the same time. He's got a bit of a stockier build. He's not like bite size, right? Like you look at like Sam Girard, that's a fun size player. With Rossi, he's a little stockier. The difference is, because he's basically the same height as Sam Girard, is that Rossi's compete level, his work rate, really high. He works really hard. He's got an edge to his game. How many times have we talked about a 5'9" guy that plays like a 6'1" guy, and a 6'1" guy that plays like he's 5'9"? Does the height really matter? Depend if you use it in a certain manner. And Rossi is a great test case of that. So the 5'9" is always going to be a concern on paper, especially for a center. But he's also a really smart player who's still developing the two-way parts of his game defensively. There's a lot of hit or miss in his game. The physicality is an issue, but he's a really smart player, and he competes really hard. So he will engage physically. He just may not always win it. He does, again, smart player. He understands his height. He understands the low center of gravity. He understands leverage, all of those things. These are all things that help him, that help him bridge this gap here. The skill level is really high. The skating for Colorado's system is probably not as good as you want it to be. And I think that after the Johansson and Middlestat misses for the Avs, that would be the biggest area of concern for me, more than the 5'9". But then you package in 5'9" players who have skating question marks don't historically have a long shelf life in the NHL. Big concerns.
For the record, he is young, so there is that.
23.
Yeah. So the shelf life maybe not an immediate concern with Rossi.
Right.
Yeah, and like, okay. I think if you're looking at the Avalanche, and for the record, I think it's extremely unlikely the Avs end up with Rossi this offseason. But just if you're looking at an archetype, the Avs may well be willing to be a little bit less worried about the defensive acumen of their 2C because they now have Lehkonen, Landeskog, and Nichushkin in their top 6 on the wings, at least in theory. Maybe Landeskog's third line, whatever. They have a lot of high caliber defensive wingers playing in their lineup that can help mask or help some of those situations. Kind of the same story with the McTavish, who was horrible defensively this year in Anaheim. Yeah. You can help those players along in that regard with some of the players that you have in your lineup. The other thing I will say about Rossi, and when you're talking about cost efficiency, Rossi does not have arb rights. If you're going out and getting an RFA that does not have arbitration rights, they're screwed. Like you offer them money and they take it or they sit at home. And like, yes, you don't want to necessarily have bad relationships with your players like that. But at the end of the day, the player essentially has no power there.
It's leverage. So, yeah. It's leverage where you could get a bridge deal. You could get a 2-year deal. And then at the end of those 2 years, he does have arb rights. Now you're talking long-term. You know how that guy fits into your system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. For me, I've spent most of my morning actually doing the Rossi thing, like looking into his game, trying to figure out why Minnesota seems so comfortable with this.
Yeah, I don't get it. I would keep him if I was Minnesota. But
despite the size questions, the way that he competes, like his work rate is really high. The organization that drafted and developed him being so out on him after a 60-goal season when they're not exactly flush with center depth.
It's a red flag. Yeah.
It's a big concern. But it's also
hold on, or they have Brock Nelson in their bag. I'm just saying.
Or they know that they're getting Brock Nelson and they're like, hey, we're not going to give $7 million to this guy because we're about to have Eric Sneck and Nelson down the middle.
Yeah,
which
fair point.
Makes me want to die.
We only have a few more minutes here, so let's transition to free agency. Look, it's really, really hard to find cost-efficient things in free agency, especially on July 1st. You're going to struggle to find cost efficiency in a market where the cap is going up, where people are going to do crazy things, where people are going to make mistakes. It is hard to do, but we've seen year after year, the Avs find ways to find a deal, whether it's in the middle of August or it's a player that is a complete reconstruction of their career type guy. We've seen the Avs find cost efficiency in free agency. Can they do it again this offseason? Are there targets out there you guys think they should be looking to scrimp and save on?
The hard part, because the answer is always yes, right? But the hard part is always you don't know how the market is going to shake out, so you don't know exactly which guy. You know, a couple of years ago, because of the connections, Jonathan Drouin was kind of an easy one, right? But Evan Rodriguez was a guy, Tomas Tatar a couple of years ago. Those were guys where you were like, you didn't expect them to have no market the way that they did, and the Avs got great deals with them. That like second, third wave of free agency is where you're always going to get those values consistently. It's hard to know which guys going in are the ones that you really want to keep an eye on. But like we mentioned him earlier, like Nate Schmidt is a guy that you want to keep an eye on. The guy that can fit your system, a guy that's a pro that understands that you're not going to have to pay a lot of money to. I'm going to freak out if Justin Brezzo ends up in an Av. I don't think it's a fit so much anymore. But like guys like that, yeah. And you know, one of the guys that we've talked about for years now, Rudo, the two of us, Anthony Beauvillier continues to be a guy who gives
wants
who's
another
outpacing his production.
1.5 mil deal or something. Yeah, totally.
Exactly. And guys like that, where he showed it again in Washington, that a solid middle six guy who doesn't have to make a lot of money if he doesn't get a multi-year deal for $3-4 million, something like that. he could have a solid season for you. He can give you 15 goals in the middle of your lineup and play with a little bit more skill. Kind of replace what you could be losing here in Kiviranta if Kivi gets a deal. And a guy like Beauvillier can give you those goals. He won't give you the defense, but he's a better offensive player who can slot up in your lineup with injuries. Like those are types of guys that I would be looking at. Like those, Victor Olofsson is another one. We talked about him last year. He was all right in Vegas. I think he's probably at the stage of his career where he's just going to continue to bounce around like this.
He'll take the deals he gets, yeah.
Yeah, and he can kind of pick his opportunities to say, okay, these are the teams that are going to fit. This is what they're going to want me to do. Like, here are guys that make sense.
I mean, if you're a guy looking to revamp your career, Colorado has to be near the top of the list based on their track record over the last 5, 6, 7 years.
All right, so I'll throw you another one out there because it's out there today that he's making a comeback next year. Jonathan Toews. You're talking about cost efficient. I don't know if he can still play. I don't know. I'm saying someone's going to take him.
Let's live in a world where he can. I don't think he doesn't solve your 2C problem. I don't believe he's going to come back and be a top 6 player. And so you're talking about trying to move on from Charlie Coyle or something, and you're saving a bunch of money that way and hoping Toews can be a 3C.
And then what are you doing at 2C?
Right, you haven't solved the 2C problem still.
And we have to admit, Charlie Coyle was awful in the playoff series against Dallas. He was awful.
Yep.
But we know that is a guy with a strong playoff track record in his career who should be a formidable player at 3C. If you want to talk about cost inefficient, he's going to be one of your most cost inefficient players on your roster next season at that number, even if he is 2C. That's a guy that, I think if you moved him and Jonathan Toews was going to take $1 million and you put him on your third line, you can, as long as saving that money going from Coyle to Toews helps you get a 2C, helps you defensively, as long as you spend those savings well, that's a decision that I could be with, man. That's an easy sell for me of sure, I'm good with that. That intrigues me. Is Jonathan Toews going to take $1 million to play in Colorado? Is he going to take $2.5 million to play in Colorado? Because again, $2.5 million, and you move Coyle out, and you don't take money back.
You're still saving money, yeah.
Exactly. You're still saving money. Oh, okay. You're getting me. You're getting me going on this idea, Eric. I could be with it, but if you're adding Toews to it, and you're saying your centers are McKinnon, Coyle, Toews, and Drury. Yeah.
I know that's my problem here, I think, because I know Coyle is Eric's boy, so he's not going to want to get rid of him.
No, I mean, I do. I mean, again, he's got a big value around the league. I'll tell you that. That wouldn't be a hard contract to get rid of. Remember, take 2 seconds. You'll have plenty of takers. I'd like to keep him,
The problem with that is, okay, let's say you do that. Let's say Toews wants to come to Colorado. You free up the cap space. What happens if Toews gets here and he can't play? It's entirely possible he's just cooked.
Yep. Yeah, that's why I think he's going to be $1 million guy, and then with some incentives, right? Some bonuses.
The incentive laden deal. That's a smart approach to it. It makes the most sense to build a contract that way.
Yep.
That's just what I think. But
we are headed into overtime here, so very quickly, if you are watching on TV, make sure you jump over online to thednvr.com where the conversation continues. Cool.
Imagine a world where Jonathan Toews is your 3C and you sign Brad Marchand to be your third line left wing as well. And you're just building the 2015 All-Stars.
Your bottom 6 it's 10 years ago.
Yeah, you want Claude Giroux to be the right wing on that line? Let's go. Now I'm sold. This sounds like fun.
Well, the way Marchand's playing, we'll take him any day.
Oh, totally.
Oh, my Lord. But I mean, he's not going out west. Not a chance. Not a chance. No. You're talking about a small stat, and he plays so hard, and his body's been through so much. Going in the Western Conference would be a shock to his system. A shock. It's so different, So yeah, he's staying back east.
Eric, there's a name on here that I know you and I are both really big fans of the player, but
did I miss it?
Would he fit somewhere in Riley Smith?
Oh God, that's my Devon Tays back then to you when they got, you know what I mean? Like, this is the guy at that same time. He was my dream guy up front. You know what I mean? Like, you're talking about a fit. You see him the way he played. Once he got traded back he's a good player, smart player. I'm a big fan. I'm one of the most underrated players in my book. What a career he's had. Smart player, does everything. So yeah,
in all situations player. Like if his market doesn't develop into a robust market, you can see like a 1 year, $2 million deal, something like that. Like,
I'd jump on that any day.
And let him be the Kiviranta replacement. To me, that would be an absolute hard yes. Thank you.
Massive upgrade. Yeah.
Yeah. A total easy sell for me. Just do not get tricked into trying to put him in your top 6. The Rangers tried that. We saw what that looks like. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. It's unfortunately still that part of the offseason where over the next 3 weeks, half the dudes we talked about on this show are going to get extended. So they're not even going to be available, really. That's the life of hockey. It's hard out here in the offseason. So I think we're good here, boys. Any final thoughts on cost efficiency on the Avs or otherwise?
I could do 2 more pods on this. This is
I know you
Tiff
could.
Asked me. Tiff was like, who are the most cost-efficient players? And I was like, this is like my love language right here. Like, this is what's up. I'll talk about this all day.
And again, I know you like him, and that's why I'm going to use his name. He's not even an Avalanche, but you're talking about cost-efficient players. Robinson in Carolina.
Oh, I mean,
what a find! What a find! Well, I'm just saying, what a find, right? You're talking about it's another Logan O'Connor, right? Just you found the guy played was he Princeton or whatever he was, nothing burger player, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, every team would take him.
Isn't his contract projection outrageous though?
Oh, he might, but I'm saying up to this today, he's been
he's been worth it. Been worth every penny.
Yeah. His contract projection is 3 years, $2.5 million.
I mean, that's not horrible. Yeah,
a healthy raise, but a guy that was barely on the edge of the league not that long ago, but has been my bae for a really, really long time. We're talking 5-6 years. I have been an Eric Robinson guy. So I'm with it, Eric. If that's going to be the case, Eric Robinson would be. You want that guy to replace Kivy? Hell yeah! Oh my God, would he be a fit? You put that guy and Parker Kelly into the same lineup on the left side in your bottom 6, you just have Hellraisers. Congratulations, you've become one of the most annoying bottom 6s to play against.
Send it. I'm in. We are going to wrap up today's show. Who knows? We've got plenty more off season, so more cost efficiency talk may be on the way next week. Tomorrow, Friday show, we'll probably try to have a little bit of fun with that one. We'll see how it ends up. But we appreciate all y'all hanging out. We're out of here for today. We appreciate it again, and we will see you on the next one.
We all silly like the mayor.